On behalf of the Minister of Treaty of Waitangi negotiations, I move that the Ngati Apa North Island Claim Settlement Bill be now read a third time. E ngā rahi o ngā waireki Ngati Apa. Tātou ngā uri wakaeke e te waka o kura haupō. Ngā tuku iho o ngā maunga tūpuna, ngā kaitiaki o ngā awa o Wangaiu, Turakina, Mangawero, Rangiti kei, Ngati Apa, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Apa āpai take, nānā te tāpiki, te tākiritanga o te ata. This is a day that Ngati Apa has been waiting for many generations and many decades of time. Today we come together, the Crown and Ngati Apa, to reflect on a journey that started in 1899, 110 years ago. At that time, the Premier, Richard Seddon, sat with our tūpuna to hear their anguish, to understand the sense of disillusionment and despair amongst them. Their pain flowed from the effects of the Turakina Rangiti transaction some 50 years earlier in 1849. In that transaction, the Crown purchased the 260,000 acre Rangiti Turakina block for £2,500, a little under twopence an acre. That one act resulted in the mass alienation of our lands from us and is the original source of our grievance. It was a transaction that resulted in poverty, not partnership. And worst of all, our identity as mana whenua was literally the people of the land was removed from us in one swipe of the pen. Mr Speaker, I refer back to these events because as uri of ngā waireki Ngati Apa, the sense of travelling a journey with my ancestors is constantly with me. Today, our journey takes a new turn, establishing a strong foundation to restore and enhance the well-being of Ngati Apa ngā waireki. And while we look forward to the transformation, we can never forget, and nor should we, the injustices that have shaped our history. It was a history that Ngati Apa entered into in the genuine desire to establish a positive two-way relationship with the Crown. The first major engagement between Ngati Apa and the Crown took place on the 21st of May in 1840 when three members of Ngati Apa signed the Treaty of Waitangi at Tāhuri Hoi Pā. 8 years later, the Crown purchased over 400,000 acres of land in which Ngati Apa had interests. But it was the impacts of the Rangiti Turakina block purchase that left the deepest wounds. The kōrero from the Crown at that time encouraged our tūpuna to believe that they would reap substantial economic advantages from the growth of European settlement around them. And so our people agreed to the transaction in the hope that settlement would bring with it peace, protection and prosperity. As one of our rangatira is recorded to have said in 1849, we have married our land to the Europeans and entirely given our greatest property to the Europeans. Mr Speaker, it was one of the tragic facts of our story that our ancestral aspirations for a positive two-way relationship never eventuated in their time. The Crown didn't properly protect the 35,000 acres of reserves from the Rangiti Turakina sale. The operation of the native land laws, in particular awarding land to individual Ngati Apa rather than to iwi o hapu, made our lands more susceptible to partition, fragmentation and alienation. And so when Premier Seddon came to the marae, our elders spoke to him about the erosion of their access to mahinga kai and their dwindling tribal estate. They shared with him their grief at the decimation of traditional tribal structures based on collective tribal and hapu custodian of land and the alienation of nearly all of Ngati Apa's remaining lands. And they recommended the Crown pass an Act of Parliament to protect their lands. But the reserves for Ngati Apa never eventuated. Mr Speaker, yesterday when the Māori Party and the National Party announced the establishment of the very significant process of constitutional review, there was a fascinating insight made by a young man on the street who remarked that we simply don't do enough to look at ourselves as a nation to know our history, and never a truer word was said. For the hapu collectives that make up Ngati Apa, we have deliberately joined together to learn our history, to familiarise ourselves with our land interests, stretching from Motukaraka south to Omaru Pāpako and inland to the Aparangi TK area. And so we proudly claim the statutory acknowledgements that have been recognised over sites within our rohe. Through this bill, deeds of recognition and place name changes will recognise Ngati Apa's traditional, cultural and spiritual relationship with their area of interest. The area known as Mount Curl will now be known as Paraikaretu. The Round Bush Scenic Reserve will be known as Omaru Pāpako Round Bush Scenic Reserve. Another recognition of our relationship with places and sites within the area of interest is that 12 Crown sites totalling 214 hectares will be transferred to Ngati Apa. But it is the prospect of cultural revitalisation that probably fills me with the greatest sense of anticipation. The settlement provides for the gifting of 5 Papakainga properties, being Ag Research Lands, Parewanui School, part of the Santoft Forest and the Lismore Sands Forest and the Kauangaroa School. Funding to assist in preparing and implementing a cultural redevelopment plan. And this includes marae development and investment in programs and initiatives covering areas such as te reo, the arts, taonga or mātauranga. Settlement funding to assist with compiling a comprehensive historical record and clearing 2 Papakainga sites located within licensed Crown forest land. Alongside of all these developments, the financial redress part of the settlement package will help Ngati Apa re-establish and grow their economic livelihood. Financial redress includes a cash payment of $16 million, the ability to purchase licensed Crown forest land and receive associated rentals, the right of first refusal for 50 years to buy 4 Crown properties if they are declared surplus to requirements, and the Runanga has also agreed to provide Whanganui iwi with an option to buy 50% of that land beneath the Whanganui prison. Mr Speaker, I come back to the journey that we are on. I stand to honour our 4 outstanding young leaders who have championed our settlement. Chairperson Adrian Rurahwe, Toko Kāpea, Pāhia Tūria and Te Roa Pōhatu. It is no coincidence that 3 of these named are affiliated to tūpuna which travelled the world to take their petition to ratify Te Treaty o Waitangi to King George. It is in our whakapapa to continue the search for resolution. My own grandfather, Hāmiora Uru Te Angana, my adopted father, Tariuha Manawaroa Te Aweawe, my mother's 2 sisters, Ripeka and Mihitarina, also travelled with Tahu Pōtiki Wiremu to get the treaty ratified. Tahu Pōtiki Wiremu asked the Labour Party to ratify the Treaty of Waitangi. They could not and did not honour that agreement. I hope that the constitutional review that we embarked on yesterday takes our journey forward in such a way as to honour our tūpuna as he deserved. Mr Speaker, when the deed of settlement was first signed, I remember my nephew Adrian speaking of the amazing gift of generosity given by iwi to the nation. He was referring to the fact that iwi, through the course of negotiations, give up the right to claim up to 97% of what they are entitled to, and such is the extent of the manaakitanga that they bring to this nation. How hard it is to listen to some of the redneck rhetoric that is espoused by some who are unable to accept the noble generosity of spirit expressed by tangata whenua in the treaty settlement process. Our struggle for justice over successive generations has today come to fruition, and I weep for those who are no longer with us. I am in awe